So now it seems not going to the United States is some sort of crime. At any rate, that's the way it seems after the latest threat directed at Canadian tourists. Again, Canadians have been slighted by a self-important mouthpiece from Washington. And this time, it wasn't Trump specifically, at least, not directly. It was his personally hand-picked representative, the United States ambassador to Canada, Pete Hoekstra. Now, Trump is no longer president, but his tactics certainly are. It's no longer loud, off-the-cuff insults or chaotic press conferences where Canada is the punchline. No, now they've polished it up, wrapped the same old threats in suits, speeches, and business forums to make it all look official and respectable. So, what's the latest threat? According to Hoekstra, if Canadians don't start going to the United States a lot more, Washington might take another look at pre-clearance. It sounds technical and minor, but make no mistake, it was a warning, not a suggestion. He made these comments in front of Canadian business leaders, and his tone was less than amiable. It was sharp, condescending, and laced with passive-aggressive criticism. Hoekstra pointed out that travel from Canada to the U.S. dropped by more than 1 million people at the northern border this July, compared to the same time last year. Airlines such as Air Canada, Flair, Porter, and WestJet have all cut back on U.S. routes. For example, flights by Flair to Las Vegas are down by 62%, Air Canada by 33%, and WestJet by 31%. Clearly there's been a dip, but rather than attempt to understand why, or to fix the relationship, Hoekstra did what so many in Trump's circle do. He issued an ultimatum. He claimed the U.S. might not be able to make the numbers work anymore, referring to the cost of keeping U.S. customs officers stationed in Canadian airports. He said, pre-clearance is something done at the expense of the U.S. government. We pay for it. Sound familiar? That's the same line of thinking Trump used when talking about NATO or trade deals. It's the same playbook, just with a different spokesperson. What he really meant was this. If Canadians don't start spending their money in the U.S., they'll make it harder for us to go there at all. And somehow, that's supposed to make people want to travel? It's like telling a friend, you haven't visited my house in a while, so next time you do, I'll search your bag and maybe take your phone. Do you think that would make anyone more eager to visit? Here's why pre-clearance matters. It's not just convenient, it's a layer of protection. When you go through U.S. customs in Canada, you're still on Canadian soil and under Canadian law. If something feels wrong, you can walk away. But once you're in the U.S., that freedom disappears. If border officers decide they don't like something about you, or they want to search your devices or luggage, you can't say no. You're in their system, and in the worst case, you could end up detained. That's why this so-called warning is serious. It is not some simple policy change. It's about control and leverage. The message is clear. Show up, spend your money, or face the consequences. But this time, the Canadian business community didn't just nod along. They pushed back. During the forum, former diplomat Colin Robertson, who moderated the event, decided to confront Hoekstra directly. He reminded him that pre-clearance has been in place since the presidency of Dwight Eisenhower, and that it has worked perfectly well for decades. Canadians, after all, are still the largest group of foreign tourists visiting the United States. And how did the ambassador react? Irritated. He responded, "Don't put words in my mouth." Ironically, that's precisely what people say when they already have said something they wish they hadn't. To his credit, Robertson didn't back down. He read Hoekstra's exact words back to him, forcing him to face his own statement. But instead of softening his stance, Hoekstra doubled down. "You're all business people," he said to the audience. "If one segment is down 20 or 25%, you look into the reasons, but you also have a responsibility to your shareholders." So, there it was again, the same message, loud and clear. If fewer Canadians were visiting the U.S., then the U.S. might just make it even harder for the rest to come. Let me stop and reflect on that for a second. If a company is losing customers, the idea behind that argument would be, that the best way to stem this is to make the customer experience worse. That's preposterous, almost funny if not so insulting. They are no longer even feigning interest in the relationship. But here's the truth they refuse to acknowledge. Canada doesn't need the United States. Not for vacation, not for getaways, not for peace or relaxation. We have it all right here at home. From the golden sunsets in Providence Bay to the refreshing ocean breeze in Halifax, there is no reason for Canadians to have to cross into another country to find beauty, serenity, or happiness. So, let them make their threats. Let them wave pre-clearance over our heads like it's some privilege we need to earn. We'll be fine staying right here in our own backyard, and honestly, we'll probably be better for it. Let's call this what it really is. The U.S. isn't concerned about making it easier for Canadians to travel. What they are concerned about is the decline in Canadian money passing through their hotels, airports, and casinos. In lieu of asking themselves why Canadians weren't traveling to their country anymore, they acted like a bitter ex in an attempt to hurt the people who stopped coming over. That's not diplomacy, that's insecurity in a business suit. And that insecurity is showing. Look at the numbers, 1.3 million fewer border crossings in just 1 month. That's not a small decline, that's a statement. It says Canadians are thinking carefully about where they spend their time and money. It says we're no longer willing to overlook the insults and threats just to grab a flight to Las Vegas. Maybe, just maybe, we'd rather explore our own country than pour our dollars into a nation that treats us like economic pawns. What's most frustrating is the arrogance behind the whole message. If the U.S. ambassador actually cared about understanding the issue, then he could have asked real questions. Why are Canadians flying less? Why are the routes being cut? Is it due to the economy, safety, or politics? But no, asking those questions would require actually listening. And Washington has made one thing very clear. They're not interested in listening. They're interested in obedience. Obedience disguised as friendship, dressed up as strong bilateral relations. And when Canadians don't comply, when we choose to spend less, travel less, and keep our money at home, their response isn't curiosity or respect, it's retaliation. And that is not partnership, that's coercion. Not only that, but the fact that this message isn't coming from a formal policy statement, but from the mouth of someone meant to represent diplomacy and mutual respect, says everything about how little they think of us. But here's where things shift, because we're not powerless, and we're certainly not at their mercy. Truth is, we already hold the most powerful tool we need, our wallets. We send a message, louder than any speech or threat from an ambassador, every time we choose to spend our vacation money here at home, instead of across the border. We're saying we will not be bullied, guilted, or intimidated into supporting an economy that does not respect us. And let's be honest, we're not losing anything by doing that. From the cobblestone streets of Quebec City to the wild, breathtaking scenery of British Columbia, Canada is filled with world-class beauty. We don't need to cross a border to find great food, rich culture, or comfort. We just need to look around. This isn't about nationalism, it's about dignity and self-respect. If another country wants our business, our presence, and our dollars, then they need to act like they deserve it. They need to stop pretending that pre-clearance is some generous favor they're doing for us. It's not. It's a mutual convenience, something that benefits both sides. And if they decide to take it away, they won't be punishing us. They'll be hurting themselves. Their airports, hotels, and tourist towns will feel the loss long before we do. You'd think a country that prides itself on capitalism and competition would understand that. If fewer Canadians are traveling south, perhaps that says something. Maybe the experience wasn't worth the cost. Maybe it didn't feel safe anymore. Maybe the constant political tension scared people off. But instead of fixing the problem, they respond by saying, "If you're not coming, we'll just make it harder next time." Brilliant strategy, right? Now, put yourself in the shoes of a Canadian going on a business trip or family vacation. You see the headlines: hostility at the border, increased surveillance, and now the threat of losing pre-clearance. Is that inviting? Of course not. That's a red flag. So, instead of booking flights to Florida, you plan a trip to Nova Scotia. Instead of spending your money in Las Vegas, you explore the Okanagan. Every time Washington opens its mouth to threaten us, that decision becomes easier. And for anyone who says this is just politics and that we shouldn't take it personally, I disagree completely. Travel is personal. Spending is personal. When a country tries to make you feel small or unwelcome unless you bring your credit card, that's personal. When they try to scare you into compliance by warning you about consequences, that's personal. And when they send someone to our soil to lecture us like children, that's very personal. We are not boycotting in anger. We are opting out with purpose. We deserve respect. And if that is too much to ask, then we will take our time, our money, and our families elsewhere. There's an entire country here waiting to be explored, and no customs officer can stop us from enjoying it. So to Ambassador Hoekstra, thank you. Thank you for reminding Canadians of the value of staying home. Thank you for showing us that the welcome mat in your country only comes out when it's convenient. Thank you for making it that much easier for us to say no. And to every Canadian watching this, here's the real message. You don't have to write to your MP. You don't have to organize protests. And you don't have to sign petitions. The simplest and most powerful way to respond is with your choices. Let your next travel decision speak for you. Choose Canada, choose local, choose respect. Because if Washington wants to play games with our access, we'll remind them how powerful we are without ever stepping outside of our own borders. Every dollar we spend here is a statement. Every trip we take within our country reinforces the notion that we have no need to be dependent on anyone else to enjoy our lives. Now more than ever, we should be choosing Canada not because we are forced to, but because we want to, because we can, because we are proud of what we have, and because home has never looked as beautiful as in the face of arrogance like this. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you believe Canada deserves better.